Here's the thing. Should you break up with bread? Should you? I don't know. Just because you're starting dirty, lazy keto or, a ketogenic type diet, does that mean that you never, ever, ever get to have bread again? And when I talk about bread, I'm kind of thinking about in my brain, like sliced bread, crackers, breadsticks, tortillas, pizza crust, naan, cereal, like all that kind of stuff to me is like bread. I put it all in one kind of category. So here's the thing. A lot of people ask me, especially when they're new with Dirty Lazy Keto, they ask me, especially with some of the specialty products that are available commercially, they'll ask me, if I eat this piece of fake keto bread, will I gain weight? It's like they're asking me like a magic genie question. Or they'll worry if they have a piece of keto bread or keto granola or any of those products, they'll ask, will it make my weight loss stall? So I'm sure that they can't be the only ones that feel that way. I bet a lot of people worry and stress and have anxiety about bread, right? And then you kind of miss it and you feel guilty and weird and embarrassed. It's like, who is up late at night thinking about this poor lost boyfriend called bread? I am. I'll admit it. But I also think that some of you might be wondering, are there some strategies out there that might be effective that you could take away that might help you stop craving bread or stop wanting bread or just to transition away from it? So that's what I want to really get into today. Because here's the deal. I mean, during my journey, my personal journey of losing 140 pounds and creating Dirty Lazy Keto, I had to end my romance with carbolicious breads. It was like a bad boyfriend, and I just had to hang up on him. I really did. I had to break up with him, like a terrible breakup. It was sad and dramatic and tears. I'm just kidding. It wasn't like a clean breakup, though. It wasn't like I didn't call him ever again. I think that there were some breads that continued to be important to me during my journey of losing weight and still are important to me, still crave or, certain situations where I want a bread type product. And so for those situations, I learned to create a low carb alternative. Easier said than done, right? Some of my alternatives were really awesome and great and perfect. And others were like, bread. I kind of considered them to be training wheels because I needed them for a while and it was perfect at first. But then I found out over time, I didn't really need it as much as I thought I did. So that's okay too. I think that there's a transition kind of that happens when you start Dirty Lazy Keto and you're cutting back on carbs. I think you're more willing to let go of certain things over time and after you have success. I think that's the key. At first you're just nervous and worried and stressed. So you want to plan for everything. But then after you start losing weight, you're like, it's not so bad. I don't really miss that, toast as much as I thought. So over time, I want to share with you some of the strategies I used, some of the examples I used of bread alternatives and non-bread alternatives, and also just how I got rid of that whole bready situation and fell in love with different substitutes. So that's going to be the crux of our journey today. So today, we're going to go through basically 3 topics, okay? I'm going to share with you my favorite bread substitutes, including a free cloud bread recipe at the end. If you don't want to pay attention now, you can go off and do something and come back. At the very end, I'll teach you how to make my cloud recipe. And as I go through my favorite bread substitutes, I want to talk about the pros and the cons, because I think that's pretty important. Wouldn't you agree? Because it's easy to just throw ideas out at you and then you're like, okay, well, is that going to work for me? Maybe not. So I want to share with you kind of in my journey of trying different strategies, what worked, what didn't, which ones I loved and which ones I was like, eh. And I want to show you and tell you, because I got a whole office full of bread and bread alternative products. It smells good in here. It's very strange having all this food in my office because my office is upstairs and then the dog tries to break in. Anyway. Okay, so there's basically 3 choices. I'm going to boil it down to 3. So we got the first choice is to cut out bread altogether. And I call this like the Band-Aid approach. Can you see that? So rip the Band-Aid off, get rid of bread, never look back. It's like hang up on the boyfriend, never talk to him again. Just rip it off. Boom. And for those people, you know, it can work really well. They might just go with like egg salad and not put it on a piece of bread or a croissant. They just eat the egg salad. Or tuna. They eat the tuna, not on the bread. They eat the meat, not the sandwich. You know, they're totally fine going through a drive-thru and like eating a burger patty, throwing away the bun. You know what I'm saying? Like that can be a really simple strategy, especially when you're starting, if that's interesting to you, to just cut bread out altogether and see what happens. So those are the pros. Seems easy, right? You just go. Well, there's some negatives with that one, right? Like you're all, oh, whoa, Nelly. Whoa, Nelly. There's some times where you just got to have bread, right? I get that. So in my experience, you know, that worked for some breads, but maybe not all the time. For me, that strategy had a lot of cons because I ended up feeling kind of resentful at times. I was bitter and angry, like, well, I really like pancakes, so what do I do? You know what I mean? Like, I really like muffins, so now what? Or I kind of wanted a sandwich today. I wanted a grilled cheese. What do I do? So I had to figure out a different strategy because cutting out bread altogether, I think it sounds good on paper, but for a lot of us, it's not as easy as it sounds. So let's move into number 2. That was an easy one, right? Number 1, rip off the Band-Aid. That's a sad, sad strategy. Sad. Okay, let's go to number 2. This might be more fun. Number 2 is non-bread substitutes. Now, I bet you guys have a ton of ideas. I'm not the only one who came up with these, so please share in the comments. What are the non-bread substitutes? And share the brand as well, because I think in different parts of the world and region, we all have different ideas and different items in our supermarket and just different strategies. Plus, I haven't thought of everything, so you'll be helping me out. So I want to share some of my non-bread substitutes that I use. And this is for all those situations where you might need like something bready, like we talked about earlier. Probably the first and obvious one that I'd say is on top of mind for everybody. Well, I shouldn't say obvious, because especially when you're new, you don't know. I like to use lettuce leaves or cabbage leaves to wrap a sandwich. Simple, right? One thing I love about using lettuce leaves or cabbage leaves or romaine lettuce boats, those are really nice too, is they make for great tacos, they make great sandwiches. It's cheap, it's healthy, especially at restaurants. They're so used to it now. It's not even like you're losing weight or like on a diet. Like a lot of people just like that and it's healthier. So they're totally used to it. Even in the drive-thru, McDonald's, you know, Wendy's, you can ask them, hey, wrap that in lettuce, In-N-Out Burger, and they know what to do. They have like a little code in the computer. And sometimes they don't even charge you extra. And they shouldn't, right? They're not giving you a bone for crying out loud. So that's an easy strategy. You can do that at home and on the go. But what if you're Burger King? Burger King does not have leaf lettuce. Did you know that? Burger King has shredded lettuce or like loose lettuce. And sometimes there's situations where I'm used to having like rice, for example, at an Indian restaurant or an Asian restaurant where I might want my whatever I ordered, like butter chicken at Indian. And I used to put it on rice or non-bread. So instead of doing that, I'll just hit their buffet and get a plate of lettuce. I know that sounds crazy, but I just pour my sauce over it. I do this with Italian food as well. I make my Italian sauce, whatever I'm normally making, meat sauce, Italian sausage sauce, and I just put it over lettuce. For me, it's so simple and it's cheap, always available, inexpensive. I buy a bag of pre-shredded, pre-washed lettuce at the grocery store every time I go. It's like $1. Come on. And then I always have it available. And I feel like it's available at restaurants too. It's not expensive. It's not an imposition. It's cheap, simple. It's not embarrassing. I like that. That works for me. What about, I mentioned tuna fish earlier, egg salad, things like that. Do you always have to have it on a wrap Does it always have to be like that? Another non-bread substitute I like to do is just simple celery. Y'all know I love celery. I'll be eating a pound of celery at a time. Seriously. But the stalks of celery, I haven't washed this yet, but they are very easy to dip, all of your whatevers that you're having. So plus you're getting more veggies in, which is key, right? So don't be afraid, instead of like a tuna fish sandwich, use celery to dip and eat your normal lunch routine. Same could be told for cucumber slices. I like to do that a lot, or zucchini spears. Anything that's a vegetable item. I feel like it's cheap, it's portable, it's not embarrassing. For me, I don't know why that's important. And it's cheap. Did I say cheap? And it's available all the time. Like, you don't have to make a special phone call or a special trip to some special store to get that, right? Like, everyone has lettuce, cucumbers, cabbage, celery. These are foods that you can find anywhere. And I know you guys are starting to think of stuff, right? Like, now that I'm mentioning it, you're like, oh yeah, I do that too. You didn't even realize you're doing it. A lot of fun recipes. You can use just slices of cheese, and you can wrap your meat or whatever you're having inside a slice of cheese. You can use this in the oven, melt it, and it'll make a really nice pliable, almost tortilla that you could use for your tacos or whatever you're having. Now, granted, cheese is going to have a lot more calories, which I don't count, but common sense tells you cheese has more calories than celery, right? Like, duh. So you do have to be careful when you make choices like this and not have like 5 tacos with slices of cheese versus 5 tacos with romaine lettuce boats, which I've done. The lettuce boats, that is. A new kind of fun favorite I've been playing around with is using jalapenos as my wrapper. And you can see here that jalapenos, you just make them like a little boat. You can fill them with all sorts of fun things. And if you get rid of the seeds carefully enough, then they won't be spicy. My husband loves those. You don't even need a wrap. You can wrap your food like in hard salami. Okay. Just stick whatever you're having in there, or wrap your produce inside of here, like an inside out sandwich. A lot of new restaurants are doing fun things like this. So hop on board. You can use your lunch meat to wrap things up with, especially if you're filling it with like cream cheese and maybe some tomato or a little bit of, what else? Some sprouts, cucumber slices. You can almost make like a little sushi by wrapping it with meat. And pepperoni could be used instead of chips. And then here's a fun one. I know tortillas are a hot button with everybody. And yes, you can go buy them commercially. But for a non-bread substitute, have you ever made a simple egg tortilla? So easy to do. It's basically like an omelet, but it's very thin. And you could make it with egg white. You could make it with the whole egg. Just use your smallest egg pan and just keep lifting the sides until it kind of spills and fills in the gaps. You have to kind of practice a few times, but it's super easy to do and super cheap. And then you can fill your egg tortilla with whatever you want. I like how all of those, for me, the pros, I think I've said it a few times, they're available, they're affordable, they're very low for the most part in net carbs and high in fiber, unless you're picking like the cheese. But all of those are low in points, simple, easy to find, no muss, no fuss. For me, you can kind of tell by the way I'm leaning with my excitement about this category that I feel like this might be my favorite category. But it took me some time to get there. I didn't like fall into that the first day. Like, oh, I can just eat celery. No. Like, I went through a painful withdrawal where I was like trying to eat Melba toast, counting the carbs, like trying to make my own crackers. And you can totally do that. But at first I was like, oh my gosh, I feel the pain. But just so you know, down the road, there are more choices available. Some of the negatives also might be that I didn't really talk about. That might not give you your bread fix, right? Like, you're thinking, I really wanted a cracker. I really wanted a piece of bread. Like wrapping my stuff in a, I don't know, what'd she say, lunch meat? Like, she's crazy. You might feel that way. And if feeling angry and irritated and like deprived is getting into your mindset, then that's time, I think, to especially go to the third option, which is the fake bread substitute option. I'm gonna have to make some room here because I got a lot happening. A lot going on here in the office. So I get that. If you're feeling the need where you have to have that bread and you must have it right now, then have a plan, because there are so many great options out there. And this is where people are always coming up to me like, can I get the Aldi bread? Can I have the keto bread from Costco? Is it going to kill me? Is it going to mess up my ketosis? Am I going to gain weight? Am I going to have a stall? And they freak out over just eating a little bread. I always say the same thing. Try it. Like, what do you got to lose? Eating one piece of bread is not going to kill you. It's not going to like make you gain 100 pounds in 1 second. It's possible that it could cause you to have a stall. It's possible it might not. You're going to have to see what happens to you and your body. It's not the same for everybody. I know. Isn't that sad? I wish it was like an easy magic answer. But you've got to just try it. If it's that important to you, buy one and see what happens. I think that most folks are pretty familiar with all the low-carb tortillas on the market. I mean, there's so many choices now. And yes, they are a little bit pricey. We'll get to some pros and cons later. I think they've come a long way, though. Same with the breads. There's more than one company. There's more than one style. Some taste different than others. Even cereal, we kind of mentioned breads as a category, but there's, Keto Cereals out there commercially available that you can buy. They may not taste good. I don't know. They might be expensive. I don't know. But this is your decision. You might, start using products like Carb Quick. Carb Quick has got a lot of great recipes on the box for biscuits, waffles, pizza crust, meatloaf. There's a lot of fun things you can do where you're still getting your bread fix, right? And it's easy. It's not that complicated. These bread alternatives, there's a lot of choices out there. You might even buy, I don't have an example, but at Costco and other stores, they sell those commercially available egg wraps, the ones that I just talked about. You can buy them already made. You don't have to make them in your kitchen. If you have the budget for it and the time, it might be fun. Here's another option from the folks over at Outer Aisle. These are cauliflower sandwich thins, and they also make pizza crusts. They make giant tortillas, and these are smaller, and they're round, and they're more natural and made with a cauliflower base. So depending on what you're into, what your interest is, I think there's a lot of choices out there. You're not going to be dying, like missing that bread boyfriend that we talked about. I think there's options for you, right? Now, obviously, I have spent a lot of time in my life trying to figure out what these options are. Now, everybody knows I got like 3 cookbooks out, right? So we got the Dirty Lazy Keto Dirt Cheap Cookbook. Every recipe is $10 or less to make for the whole thing. The No Time to Cook Cookbook. All the recipes here can be made in 30 minutes or less. And then we've got the original. So many. Dirty Lazy Keto Cookbook. This is a classic. This was the original cookbook. So I have a bazillion bread recipes available for you. And I share them all. Like, I did not hold back. And there's a wide variety. Now, you guys will crack up, but I went through my freezer today to pull out some examples of what I'm talking about. Now, forgive me for not knowing the exact page of where these are from, but these are some of my favorite breadsticks. Isn't this hilarious? They're in my freezer. I don't care how old they are. If I'm having a craving for my breadstick, I know where they're at. I keep them right there. They're so yummy. If I am interested in a waffle or even making a hamburger where I want to have a piece of bread or something similar, I've got chaffles on hand. I've got plain ones. This is the cinnamon toast chaffle from the new No Time to Cook cookbook. So I've got a lot of choices hiding in my freezer, or I know the recipe. This one here is, aren't you guys laughing at my freezer bags? Here's one of my cracker recipes. So there's so many choices, right? I even have pizza crusts in all of the Dirty Lazy Keto cookbooks. One of them is so funny. I use a can of chicken to make a pizza crust. I even went to New York and made a big video about it. It's on YouTube. You can search it out, or I can provide a link for you here where I show you in like, I don't know, 2 minutes how to use a can of chicken to make a delicious pizza crust. So there's simple ways that you can get your bread fix with just a tiny bit of effort. Okay, it doesn't have to take all day. Now, I mentioned to you I was going to teach you one of my favorite cloud bread recipes. So let's do that. This should be interesting because, you know, I'm in the office. So I tried to set it up over here. But first of all, I want to show you. This is the cloud bread recipe. It's from the Dirty Lazy Keto Cookbook, the original cookbook. So if you have this book, it is on page 113. And the recipe here makes 6, and they're 1 gram of net carbs each. I'm going to show you a picture so you can see. Isn't that beautiful? And cloud bread is kind of a famous recipe. A lot of people swear by it because it's easy to make a delicious bread alternative that actually tastes great. You didn't have to stand in line, right? Did we talk about the pros and cons? I don't know. I think I better go over those really quickly before we start a recipe. But pros of some of these fake bread substitutes, it feels like bread, right? A lot of them taste like bread. They give you a delicious fix for bread. They're a fun treat. When I have a chaffle, it's like the highlight of my day. Let's be real. For me, they don't affect my weight loss. It depends on you. And like I mentioned, I can keep them in the freezer. For me, it's very reassuring and it's empowering to know that I have those choices. Some of the cons, just to be honest and transparent, some of these don't taste very good, or they don't taste like bread. But I haven't eaten bread in so long that I don't know. I have like rewritten my brain about what bread actually tastes like. So if you're new, you might think, I don't like this. I don't like this cracker recipe. I don't like this breadstick. You know, that's okay too. You're allowed to have your favorites. Just move on to the next thing. Don't write off the whole category. Now, some of these items, like we talked about, these breads, you know, these specialty products, you might not have them available in your community. They might be expensive. They might be hard to find. They might cause constipation. They might cause stomach upset. I don't know. You don't know what's in them, right? They can affect your weight loss, both positively or negatively. They might require you to spend more time in the kitchen. Those are some of the cons. Like, I'm being just completely honest. You have to figure out what's going to work for you. So let's go through real quickly how to make the cloud bread recipe, because I promised how to make it. It is in the Dirty Lazy Keto cookbook original. So as I showed you in the picture, these make a pretty fluffy bread, okay? Now, I don't always want a big fluffy bread. For me, I like to do more thinner to make more of a sandwichy. So I'm going to show you how I do it both ways. So today I made the opposite example where I made them a little bit more flat. This way I could make it thin, like for a sandwich roll up. See how I did that? And this is how I did it. I'm going to make sure I have my glasses on so I can read all your ingredients. Here we go. So you're going to start with 3 tablespoons of cream cheese. Always do full fat cream cheese. And you're going to want this to be room temperature. And if it's not room temperature, microwave it, you know, just a few seconds here and there until it gets to the softened, desirable temperature, which is easy to manipulate. Mine's already been sitting out, so I'm not going to microwave it. You don't want it to be liquid, just soft. Okay? Next ingredient you're going to have are 3 eggs. 3 eggs. You're going to separate the eggs, put the yolks in one bowl, and then in the other bowl, with the egg whites, you're going to add, I have too many things. Here we go. You're going to add a 1/4 teaspoon of baking powder, not baking soda, that's different, baking powder. And you're going to add a tablespoon of sugar-free sweetener of your choice, whatever one you like, doesn't matter. They're all going to work. Don't stress. Okay? And then you're going to add that to your egg whites, the sweetener and the baking powder. You're going to put it in a blender. Put it in a blender on high. Now I'm showing you this because I don't have a blender in my office. But you're going to blend it on super duper high until it turns out like this. Check it out. It's like ice cream. These are egg whites. See how they call it stiff peaks? Whatever that means. But anyway, you want it to get super duper fluffy like so. And that will help your bread to be super duper fluffy and cloudy. See how it's like a cloud? I mean, look, it's crazy, right? So this is 3 egg whites with a 1/4 teaspoon of baking powder and a tablespoon of sweetener. Got it? So zip that up. This took me like 4 or 5 minutes on high, 3, 4, or 5 minutes, depending on your blender. If you don't want fluffy bread, don't fluff it up so much. Just do a little bit of fluff. It's up to you. And I have my little demonstration of the ingredients. There's the tablespoon of sweetener, the 1/4 teaspoon of baking powder. And then you go mix it all up. Then you put it on your baking pan. Use parchment paper. You're going to be at 300 degrees, which is kind of low. 300 degrees. And you're going to put them in 6 piles. And as long as you made your... Oh, did I skip step? When you combine all the stuff, the last step, when you combine your fluffy egg stuff with the cream cheese and the eggs, you're going to gently fold them together. Gently. That last step, it must be gentle. A gentle fold. So I brought this to show you a gentle fold. And I know it's not the best demonstration because we were in the office. But a gentle fold, that's not like a crazy spin. It's just a gentle fold. So once all the ingredients are put together, like I said, 6 little piles, and then you bake it at 300 degrees Fahrenheit in the big oven. And for me, it takes 30 minutes, but it could go, depending on how brown you want them. So again, if you want a flatter cloud bread, kind of like these are flatter, then you do less fluffiness with your egg whites. And if you want a thicker, poofier bread, then make sure you poof it up. And these are a little bit more poofy, cloud-like. But anyway, they're delicious. It makes 1 gram net carbs per little poofy cloud bread. And then you're good to go. So easy, right? And you can keep them in the freezer. Are you excited about that? Thumbs up if you're excited about cloud bread. I mean, the big picture is breaking up with bread is a personal decision. I don't think it's as easy as black or white. You may want to change the terms of your love affair. That's okay. You might want a different bread lover or maybe not meet up as often. Okay, to keep my little analogy going. But really the choice is up to you. You have to do what's going to work for you. It doesn't have to be the Band-Aid approach, the all or nothing. There's a lot of in between, and none of these are right or wrong. You have to figure out what's going to be best for you, for your pocketbook, for your lifestyle, and emotionally what's going to actually make you feel happy. Because that's the whole point of Dirty Lazy Keto, is that it's a lifestyle that you can do forever, not a Band-Aid that you can do for 2 months or 2 weeks or something like that. This is a lifestyle. This is how I lost the 140 pounds, and I've kept it off for almost a decade. So if I can do it, guess what? So can you. I just wanted to say thank you for listening. I appreciate your support. This is a community, Dirty Lazy Keto. We have to help each other. We're in this together, my friends. It's not easy, is it? We gotta support one another. So if you found today's video to be helpful, please give it a thumbs up, leave a comment, and then subscribe to the Dirty Lazy Keto YouTube channel. Turn on your notifications so you'll never miss an update. You can also find me on Instagram at Dirty Lazy Keto. And for more information about any of my support groups, or any of my books, you can always go to dirtylazyketo.com for more information. I'm here to support you. I'm here to help. I know you can do it.